Chapter 2 begins by generating an optimal model from our sculpture through a process called retopology. This is essentially tracing a new polygonal structure or wireframe over the shape of an existing model. Now, if you're wondering, doesn't our sculpture count as a model already? Yes, it does qualify as a 3D model, but it does not qualify as an optimal model. And there's two main reasons why we need our model to be optimal. Reason number one, since we're trying to achieve maximum fidelity in every way with this portrait, any opportunity to optimize anything, we need to take advantage of that. If we don't, then every subsequent step in the process will suffer. If we try to add pore level detail to a dense sculpture, or lay out UVs for it, or texture paint it, it becomes a bottleneck to the process that we can't afford. If it doesn't make Blender crash, it will certainly slow it down to the point of threatening our ability to work. By retopologizing our sculpture, we can drastically reduce mesh density while drastically increasing the utility of our model. So the first half of Chapter 2 focuses on retopologizing each part of the face as well as the space in between until we have a complete optimal head model. The second half of Chapter 2 focuses on the second reason for optimizing our model, and that is to sculpt high-frequency pore detail. So far we've used dynamic topology to sculpt our head unfettered by our model's wireframe. This enables us to purely focus on shape and form without worrying about any of the technical side of the model. However, dynamic topology is far less efficient when it comes to processing high poly counts, as in the millions of polygons which we will need for pore level detail. So essentially we need to transition from dynamic topology sculpting over to multi-resolution sculpting because it supports millions of polygons much better. This is what will enable us to sculpt extremely fine wrinkles and pores. You could try to sculpt in the millions with dynamic topology, but your computer will not be happy. In my experience, multi-res is the only practical way to do this with Blender, at least for now. Also, since multi-res data is stored in a modifier, we can easily disable and enable it at will. There's actually several powerful features that are unlocked because this data is stored in a modifier on top of an optimal retopologized model. For the third half of Chapter 3, we will focus on modeling everything else we need for our portrait, like eyeballs, clothing, and glasses. The eyeball is pretty simple, but crucially not just a sphere. The glasses are pretty straightforward as a hard surface model, but the clothing gets interesting. We're going to model it as realistically as possible using Blender's cloth simulation tools. It's a method inspired by Marvelous Designer, and it might forever change the way you model clothing. If you're brand new to the concepts I discussed in this video, I highly recommend you start with the fundamentals of 3D mesh modeling first. Otherwise, let's get into it.